Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Governor Larry Hogan specifically said they've seen a spike in people using disinfectant after your comments last week. I know you said they were sarcastic.
I can't imagine why. I can't imagine why, yeah.
Take any responsibility?
No, I don't.
Nor should you. Look, if you drink disinfectant because the president told you to, you're an idiot. Wait there. We'll come and get you. But, Chad, people are desperate. And some are stupid. That's the reality. Some are. They're desperate and they're stupid. I don't know what else to say. What do you say at that point in time? Yesterday, Trump canceled and didn't cancel, then canceled and didn't cancel, and then eventually had a coronavirus task force mabobber. I don't even know what to call them anymore, because sometimes they feel like a press conference. Sometimes it's an update. I think what people want is an update. We want to hear from the doctors, and Trump came out and he brought up Pence, and then they brought up a bunch of business leaders and, talking about reopening America and what we have to go through. Let me tell you something about Trump that's interesting. And you get this a lot with people who are hyper-focused and driven in life. They thrive in chaos. Quiet hurts them. They thrive in chaos. They love chaos. They need chaos because the things that they do, they're driven to, but they do them so well that without the chaos, it's, and you could go back and look through time and look at every great whatever you want to look at. In modern days, look at Michael Jordan. Thrives in chaos. He did. He was so driven what he did, though, he was also bored with it. That's why he gambled like you couldn't believe. Tiger Woods, same thing. Tiger Woods played his best golf when he was juggling 50 women and trying to be the family guy and do this, that, and the other, and yet he had 50 women, yet he was driven. Some people need the chaos. They like it for whatever reason. It becomes normal to them, and they need it. And since Trump was running for president, I've always said Trump loves a fight. He needs a fight. He needs that thing. He wants to be in a storm, but he wants to be the eye of the storm. And he thrives in it. He couldn't walk away. He's addicted to chaos. He's addicted to those things. Doesn't make it bad. It makes it exactly what it is. Some people need that stuff. Some people need that noise. Some people thrive in that. I'm a big study of Western culture and Old West, and I love the Old West, and I joke about, honestly, I watched 2 episodes yesterday of Gunsmoke. It's my favorite show. And I read a lot about them. And when you read about the great old gunfighters, all of them had the thing they were brilliant at, which was their guns. But the other thing is their lives usually around there were chaos. But when the bad started to happen, and Wild Bill was the perfect example. When the bad started to happen is when his life slowed down and things around him made sense. When the shooting started, his heart rate went down. He was calm. And if you watch the movie Saving Private Ryan, Tom Hanks's character, when he's not dealing with chaos, he's shaky, he's jittery, and then when stuff starts to happen, boom, he's focused. Trump needs that. Sitting around quietly, that's not who he was. That's not who he is. And that's not who he's going to be. It'll get him in trouble. But at the same time, he figures out a way to get out of it. It's very interesting. So yesterday, no. Big thing. Today, who knows? You just never know. And even when there is some sort of press conference or something, you never know exactly what it's going to be. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. States across the country starting to reopen. People are starting to get frustrated, and there's a reason for that. I've said everybody has a breaking point, and that doesn't mean that you're just going to lose it and go out. But everybody has a breaking point of when they need to do something, whether it's get back to work or just get out.
Using anonymous cell phone location data, the University of Maryland is keeping track of how far and how often Americans are traveling during the pandemic. On Easter Sunday, researchers say the number of people staying home reached a record high. But almost 2 weeks later, data shows social distancing has reached its lowest level since March 20th.
Because people are going nuts. They're sitting around the house. They're eating. I talked to a friend yesterday, and she saw, screw the quarantine. It was like, was it the freshman 10? She's like the quarantine 100. And then a guy I work with, one of the head honchos around here, he said the exact same thing. He goes, the quarantine 50 or the quarantine 100. People are losing their mind. They're getting frustrated partly because they don't feel like they're in the know. They feel like, I don't think you guys are being transparent, whether it's at the federal level or at the state level. And now they're thinking, I'm sitting around here and I'm not doing anything and I need to go do something and I got to get outside and it's hot. And, along the coast in Southern California, we're reaching the 90s in some areas, which if this time of the year is almost unheard of. But in the house and it's a damn beach and I can't do this. And people are frustrated, but they're also going stir crazy. And they want to get out there. They want to do something. And they don't feel they're being told the exact truth. Out here in Arizona, big report yesterday. Some of the numbers aren't what they say they are when it comes to COVID. The transparency has been anything but transparent. And there are a lot more questions across the country, state in and state out, about how real are you guys being with these numbers. Not that you're going to be perfect, because I don't expect perfection. When it comes to this, quite the opposite. I expect there to be confusion at times, but I expect you to be somewhat transparent. But when people feel like you're not giving them the straight skinny, when people feel like that maybe, just maybe, it is either not as bad as you say it is, maybe it's time that we get out, go for a walk. They're testing the limits. They're worried. And a lot of people who were once super excited about, okay, we're going to get in, we're going to shelter in place, and this is going to be fine. Now they're starting to hear, okay, well, we're going to do this again in May. And they're thinking to themselves, no, we're not. All right, if you want to tell me I don't have to go to work, okay. But sitting me inside the house for another 30 days is not good. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. And the question with all of that going on is the vaccine. Where's the vaccine? Why don't we have why are we hearing no more about a vaccine? The stuff we're hearing is we may not have a vaccine. They're speeding up the process all over the place, and they've gotten to the point now where, well, maybe we'll try something a little different.
Most experts think a coronavirus vaccine is at least a year away. Vaccine trials are usually slow as thousands of recruits wait for exposure. One way to hasten things along is a challenge trial in which patients are injected with live virus.
Taking otherwise healthy adults and injecting them with a virus that could have serious consequences, including death.
Aside from the moral dilemma they pose, Dr. Angela Baldwin at Montefiore Medical Center said challenge trials also weigh a deeper understanding of the virus against expediency.
People are doing that, and they're looking for it. They're looking for people who are willing to be infected. Oh, that's weird. Yes. Look, between 18 and 45, you're healthy. The chances of you dying from this the numbers are identical to the flu. Now, would you tell somebody who's 83 with underlying conditions, hey, you should do this? No. But people want to get to this. And people are willing to step up and get to this. You can't say that with everything. But we've never had anything like this in our lifetime. And the way that it's covered is totally different than anything we've ever seen in our lifetime. So people are stepping up saying, yeah, I'll do it. And they're not even saying do it for money. Normally it's like, yeah, I'll do it, but I want X amount of dollars. I talked to several people. They said, would you do it? I said, well, I guess. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be scared to do it. And the way that they do it is they infect you. And they'll have and why it's different, because they're jumping all of the steps they normally would take to get to a vaccine. Normally, the human trials come after they've tried it on every other living creature out there before they get to a human. So now not only are they infecting you with something, they're also trying unproven medicine that may have you're more likely to get sick because of the medicine and what it may do to you than this. So they infect, say, 100 people, 50 will get a placebo. No more than a shot, probably of saline or sugar or something like that. It's no big deal. The other people are going to get a shot of this medicine, whatever medicine it is, and the side effects could be, all you have to do is watch television, find out what kind of side effects you get. Rapid heartbeat, eyes fall out, sweating, hair on the palm of your hands, knees turn around backwards, feet fall off. You don't know what it's going to be. So that's what's different, is they're jumping ahead already and saying desperate times call for desperate measures. So would you be willing to try something? Not only are you going to be infected with this thing, you're also going to get an unproven, untested medicine that could do who knows what to you. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. Car Shield, 24/7 roadside assistance with Car Shield. Check. Rental car for free while your car's in the shop. Check. And the shop is the shop that you choose. Check, 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 check. They get them paid directly. It doesn't matter what kind of car you have, whether the car's newer, older. They've got a plan that's right for you. And when we're all looking around trying to figure out how we can save money, one way to do it is say, hey, maybe I'm not going to go buy a new car right now. And I'm going to keep my old one, but I'd like to have something as a just in case. That's where CarShield comes in. Affordable protection plans starting at $99 a month. Call them up. You tell them exactly what you're looking for. CarShield takes care of the rest. 800-CAR-6000. Mention code Benson. That saves you 10%. 800-CAR-6000, code Benson. Just talk to them. Say, look, my car's a little newer. I got all these electronics. I want to really protect those. The car's a little older. You're worried about your transmission, your engine. You want to protect that. Whatever it is, they've got a plan that fits you, your car, and your budget. 800-CAR-6000, code Benson, or carshield.com. Code Benson, save 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
Being antisocial sucks. Hang with Chad's friends on Facebook, The Chad Benson Show. And if you just need some alone time, head on over to Twitter at Chad Benson Show. Either way, we can't wait to meet the real you.
Researchers at Yale will soon begin a clinical trial looking into ibudilast, an asthma drug. Scientists exploring its potential for treating acute respiratory distress syndrome, a potentially deadly lung condition popping up among some stricken with COVID-19. As the virus is proving more deadly for men than women, some experts in Long Island and Los Angeles are also beginning to look into 2 hormone treatments to fight the virus.
Yeah. They're giving men estrogen. And then in France, they're giving people the nicotine patch because apparently people who smoke may not be getting this in the way that other people do. So it's so bizarre. They're trying everything. This is the throw everything against the wall and see what sticks scenario. Because we want to get there. And part of getting to where we're going isn't just the health physically of human beings. It's also the mental health of people. As we start to emerge from our caves, right, our dwellings, our shanties and lean-tos, from under the rocks of which we have been quarantining for the last umpteen weeks and months, part of getting back out there is confidence that there's something out there just in case you catch this. And that goes a long way because no matter what some people want to say, poverty, extreme poverty are going to do a huge damage to people both on their health, not just the financial side of things, but on their health, on their well-being. And you've got people who are struggling with mental health issues right now that are growing exponentially because of this. So it's imperative that they find something, not just for the actual physical health side of it, but for the mental health and the confidence of people to go back to work, consumers to spend, life to get back to what we would call normal. Speaking of something that's not normal, Kim Jong-Un, where is he?
On Kim Jong-un? I can't tell you exactly. Yes, I do have a very good idea, but I can't talk about it now. I just wish him well. I've had a very good relationship with Kim Jong-un. If I weren't president, you'd be in war. You would have been in war with Korea. You would have been in war with North Korea if I wasn't president. That I can tell you. He expected that. That I can tell you. I do know how he's doing, relatively speaking. We will see. You'll probably be hearing in the not-too-distant future.
So, does he know something? Well, it sounds like he knows something. Is he well? The Japanese are saying that he is either in a vegetated state or he's dead. The South Koreans are saying, no, he's alive. He's got health issues. He's not a healthy dude. I don't think they have super modern technology when it comes to health, but I'm sure he does, and at least access to it. Supposedly the Chinese sent over some of their best experts. Who knows? It's a mystery. And in that nation, not a surprise. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. Listen to the science. Okay. But which science? Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The simulator developed at Massachusetts General Hospital suggested coronavirus deaths in the state would stay below 5,000 if restrictions are followed through August. If they're lifted, the simulator said deaths could be nearly 10 times that. The strategy in Georgia, which has already opened some businesses, could be risking 23,000 deaths. Nationwide, the simulator predicts 1 million deaths from coronavirus if restrictions were lifted in every state next month. Leave them in place until June, and the model predicts 86,000 deaths.
See? What model's that? Everybody's got a model. Everybody's got a hypothetical model. There's a great article last week that came out in The Hill by Scott Atlas. He's former chief neuroradiology at Stanford. He teaches it there. Interesting article, and he talks about the fact that we're living our world based on hypothetical models that have been wrong time after time after time, instead of going on in, facts that we have, empirical facts that we've had for a long time. He talked about New York, right? Case in point, he said, look, third of the deaths in New York, in the U.S. took place in New York. But that shouldn't panic the rest of us. He said more than 99% of those who have died had underlying conditions, and the rate of the death of people between the ages of 18 and 45, healthy Americans 18 to 45, is 0.01%, which is also the same as the flu. We have facts. He says facts matter. But it got me thinking today about the fact that we live in a world where whose facts matter. Whichever fact that you want your point of view, you'll find that. Last week, Trump talked about disinfectant UV lights. People on the right ran around trying to find, well, there's got to be some sort of, they're doing studies here at Cedars-Sinai with UV lights and putting it there. Everybody's trying to find the thing that fits whatever works for their idea. Science is no different. Why they talk about, is it peer reviewed? Is because when you peer review something, you're sending it out there to your peers. When really what it should be, is it rival reviewed? Because rivals are going to tear it apart. Science is about going out and, in many cases, debunking what the other person's come up with. When I was a kid growing up, don't eat eggs. Eggs are bad, cholesterol. Then you get older, like, well, hold on, eggs are good. Well, who's right? New study out today. How many times you heard that? I was reading a study this morning. AM time. I was talking to producer Anthony about it. How many times have we heard, if you don't get enough sleep, that is the cause of obesity? New study out today says, no. The reason you don't sleep is because you're obese. Oh. Well, what is it? That's the problem with this COVID-19 is every day we turn around, we have a new theory, we have a new symptom, we have a new thing that science tells us to do. So 2 weeks ago was everybody needs to wear a mask, even though the masks don't really work. Well, they do work, but they don't work. Why do they work? I don't know why they work. Maybe they do work. Maybe they don't work. Maybe they can. Maybe they won't. I don't know. You should use gloves, but only if you are able to take the gloves and off every time. It is all confusing. What we do need to do is say to ourselves, we don't know enough about it. So let's look at the evidence. Listen to what some of the scientists have to say. And some of them who are living in a world of politics and they're throwing some wacky stuff out there. And, let's listen to what science has to say, but also look at the evidence. Here's what science on all sides says. Herd immunity is the best thing for this, especially if we're not going to get a virus. That's what Scott Atlas talks about. All we're doing is hiding from the virus, giving our healthcare workers enough time to be prepared when another wave comes, but we're not getting rid of it. It's not disappearing. It's still out there. We're not going to stay in our houses forever. It's no way we could live. Eventually, they're going to come take your house. But it is funny the way that science does what science does. It's all about debunking a lot of the other things that are out there. And I'm always curious about, because you can go and find, and you've always got to look at who pays you. That's the other thing, right? Who pays you? Science, I've got a buddy who works, we grew up together. He's a good dude. Wanted to be an astronaut. Really smart cat. But he does scientific stuff. And he used to always tell me, find out who pays the scientists and you'll find out what science they're going to roll out for whatever it is that they're doing. And he always jokes about Coca-Cola got scientists to say there were some benefits to Coca-Cola. Why? Because they needed that. And if you're a person who is being funded, the reason you're being funded isn't to destroy who's ever funding you. It's to help them. And all too often, just like when you watch campaign ads all over the place, what do they tell you? I always don't look at what the campaign ad says. Look who's paying for the campaign ad. Because that'll tell you more about that in the 5 seconds than that entire 30 seconds or minute will tell you. And it's the same thing with science. Here's what we know. We don't know enough about it. One thing we do know is herd immunity, at least empirically, has been able to help people overcome stuff. And if we don't have a vaccine and we're hoping to get back to our lives at some point in time, we've got to face the fact that we may have to get out there and take calculated risk, especially the younger, healthier folk under probably 65 with no underlying conditions. And I think if you ask the average person in America who's healthy and it doesn't have any true underlying, they're 20 pounds overweight is not an underlying condition. 200 pounds overweight with diabetes is. But if you ask that average person, are you willing to get out there and just live your life? I think if you presented all of the science, they'll probably say, yeah, I'm good with those odds. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Love hearing from every single one of you. All that being said, just remember you guys have animals, and animals need to be taken care of just like human beings in this time. And that includes making sure we're distancing ourselves just in case.
The CDC says pet owners should take precautions by simply treating pets as they would other human family members. Though there have only been a handful of known cases of animals becoming infected with COVID-19, the advisory suggests that people apply social distancing measures to their pet as well. That means keeping cats indoors and walking dogs on a leash at least 6 feet away from other animals and people. The CDC says at home, interact the way you normally would, but if someone does get sick in your household, keep the pets away as well.
So keep your pets away. Would I keep my pets away? My pets are weird. I have dogs. Of course, those of you who remember, Theodore, my cat, passed away late last year, who's only a year and a half old. Went through a lot in his little year and a half life. Best cat in the world. Lost his leg. But I've got little dogs, and I have giant lizards. Weird. I live in a weird world. I have big lizards. I'm not really worried about whether or not my lizards will catch coronavirus. I had somebody who tweeted at me, "Are you worried about your lizards catching coronavirus?" I'm like, I'm not. I said, in the world now, they're different because they're not wild caught. They're all captive bred and born, which means that not only are they born in captivity, their parents are born in captivity. So they've only ever known living in the world that they live in. And they've got it, my house, they've got it pretty darn good. But I said the reality is they have salmonella, many cases, some of them have venom, and they eat carcasses. So I'm not worried about them catching that. But the dog thing is weird. So far, the cats, the big cats are catching it. And I don't know what it does for big cats. They haven't really, are they dying from it? Are they not? Because, they have, there's HIV and AIDS. And there's also feline AIDS. Is it the same thing? Or do they die from it? And could you do that? Like, how do you social distance from your dog? Especially in a time when we're social distancing and we need something. We need that. Like, they were worried originally when this thing hit that there was going to be a flood of animals across the country that were being turned in because people were losing their jobs and they couldn't afford to keep their pets. And quite the opposite's happened because people are looking for a companion. They've adopted a lot of animals. Could you imagine adopting an animal and say, well, you can't hang around it? Oh, man. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. We're getting back out there. It is starting to happen. Slowly but surely, they're starting to get themselves back out there. And by that, I mean the country. Certain parts, Texas opening up Friday. 25% of people, or 25% capacity. So if you have a restaurant, normally you seat 100 people, you can have 25 people in there. Tables. I don't know what this is my thing, and maybe I'm weird here. The gloves and the mask at a restaurant feel a bit off-putting. Like, I'd rather just order food and take it home than have somebody serve me in a hazmat suit. I'm okay with the, throwaway. They're talking about, okay, we're going to have certain places will have menus that you can just, you throw them away on paper. I guess, that's fine. But am I wrong about the gloves and the mask? Don't they feel a little off-putting when you're going to get food? Because I feel like even though my mind says, I've eaten here 1,000 times, all of those things, it just feels like now I feel like my food's contaminated more than it was. Even though I didn't think it was, but now I feel like, in my mind, I feel like it's contaminated. 323-538-2423, at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. They're also going to allow people into theaters, so if the capacity is, say 400, only 100 people will be allowed in, 25. And I don't even know what movies they're going to show. Some movies are going to be rolled out in June and July. I don't know outside of that. I don't know if we start to really open back up again, if movie companies are thinking about throwing movies out, even though they've moved them, maybe moving them again, thinking, we'll take advantage of being the only movie in a theater. That's a possibility. But it's weird. And then they talked about concerts in the future, people wearing these bizarre suits where you look like you're Daft Punk. I'm like, that's just not going to fly. It's not. I mean, this whole thought of this is the way we're going to live now and everybody's going to be hermetically sealed is just insane. That is not how it's going to be. It isn't. 323-538-2423, at Chad Benson Show, Twitter. Tweet at us. MyPillow right now is doing something amazing. Mike Lindell has moved his production line from making MyPillow products to making PPEs for hospitals and health workers across the country. So they've decided we're going to move everything out. We're going to do a big sale. Buy one, get one free on everything. The Supreme My Pillows, the neck and bolster pillows, the roll and go anywhere pillows, the Giza towels and sheets, the Dream Sheets, all of that stuff is going buy one, get one free. With it, you get a 60-day money-back guarantee, a 10-year warranty, and everything's made in the USA. So when you go to MyPillow.com, use the special radio listener page, you type in code Benson. When you do, you get the buy one, get one free. But on top of that, on the way out, if you buy his book, and if you don't know anything about Mike Lindell, know this. Drug addict, real mess, going nowhere, probably should have died, changed his life, and became a uber successful individual. It's a really interesting read, regardless of your politics, your religious belief. It is a really rags to riches story. When you do that, you get a $25 gift card towards your next purchase, and he's going to ship everything for free. MyPillow.com, use promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
Boys, give me a bowl of chili with plenty of peppers.
One Mexican heartburn. Why don't you mugs grow up?
The Chad Benson Show, where independent, a la carte thinkers have a seat at the table and a voice in the dialogue.
I'll have what she's having.
This is Chad Benson.
The Weeknd's 4-week run on top of the Billboard 200 album chart is over, dethroned by DaBaby.
Ooh, I know the feeling, ain't it?
The Grammy-nominated rapper scores his second chart topper with the album Blame It on Baby, and while The Weeknd is number 2 on the album chart, he still reigns on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart, where Blinding Lights now marks a month in the top slot, and a record for Post Malone. His song Circles just scored the most weeks ever in the top 10. 34.
What? I love that song, by the way. I love Post Malone. I feel like I'm holding on to Post. Like, I hope you make it. I feel like I just don't. I'm going to say this. It sounds awful because I absolutely love Post Malone. Guy is not in any genre of music. He does hip hop. Some of his songs sound like they should be straight on the alt. And I hear him. It's so weird. Yesterday, I'm driving in, flipping around. I hear one of his songs on the alt station, and then a few minutes later, I hear his other song on like the hip hop, like hot station, and I'm like, I love him. Guy's interesting. He's got all kinds of talent, but I feel like he's always living on borrowed time. That's just me. Speaking of Post Malone, when I talk about him, here's some alt from him.
Hello, everyone.
Rapper Post Malone clearly loves Nirvana. He And some friends, including Blink-182's Travis Barker, ripped through Kurt Cobain's catalog Friday night in a social distancing concert on YouTube. They solicited donations for the World Health Organization's COVID-19 Solidarity Fund, as of Monday raising more than $4 million. Donations still being accepted.
Yeah, he loves himself. All kinds of music. I just don't see an old Post Malone. Like, you could see artists, you're like, I wonder what so-and-so is going to look like in 50 years. And yeah, and then you look at Post, and you're like, I don't think so. 323-538-2423. And that's on him. Guys like he's car crashes. He's been in a plane crash. He touched the divot box. If you don't know what the divot box is, it is something from the Jewish religion, and it's supposedly cursed. And he touched it, and he said, you shouldn't touch it. And he knew it, and he touched it. Now he believes he's cursed. Made a movie about it a few years ago, not Post Malone, about the box itself. But I always feel like he's on borrowed time, and I don't like that because I like his stuff. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And we have to be smart, because if you are not smart, you will see that infection rate go right back to where it was. We'll be right back to where we were 58 days ago, and nobody wants to do that. What I want to say to my regional colleagues is be smart. Well, we want to reopen. Well, have you thought through reopening? First question is, do we meet the CDC guidelines that say you reopen when you've seen a decline in numbers for 14 days?
That is Governor Cuomo, New York City, America. How do you reopen? It's not going anywhere. Let's be real. We do not have a therapeutic treatment. We do not have a vaccine. And while the numbers have gone down, it is only because we have stayed inside of our hovels. So how do we reopen? There is going to be a second wave. There is going to be a spike. There is going to be people infected. So what do? We're not in a recession. We're in a depression. Make no mistake, we're in a financial place that we have not. 2008 was nothing compared to what this is heading into. And yeah, we want to be cautious, but at the same time, if there is no therapeutic treatment, if there is no vaccine, what do? I've talked about the herd immunity. Sweden's heading in that direction. They believe in the next 3 weeks they're going to have herd immunity, which will give them an advantage over their Scandinavian brothers and sisters. And what they've said all along, you look at our death rate, and while it is higher than other ones, you guys will end up the exact same place, and you're going to be playing the game of getting in and getting out, getting in and getting out. What do we do? Because states are going to be heading back soon, as early as this week.
With a number of states taking steps to reopen, some restaurants in Georgia and Tennessee are now resuming dine-in service. This Friday, some businesses in Texas are planning to follow suit. In Ohio, manufacturing and construction are resuming next week. And people in Washington state will be able to return to state parks and lands by May 5th, at which point fishing, hunting, and golfing will also resume.
Yeah, it's going to happen. I mean, at some point, we're going to have to go out. As I talk to people who, yesterday, I'm going to read something I got yesterday from a phenomenal human being. Somebody who's scared. I joke, somebody who's scared. And I put it out there because it shows you, not because I wanted to embarrass anybody. And if that's taken that way, well, first of all, you shouldn't have said what you said to me. Secondly, I understand that people are scared. I get that people are scared. But this is what somebody said to me yesterday. Would love to see herd immunity in Chad's family and watch his parents die of COVID-19. Maybe he wouldn't be such a fat POS know-it-all. You're an embarrassment. First, I want to let you know, sir, my mom is fine. Secondly, my father died when I was 16. And if he was here and he heard that, he'd try to find out where you are and put his foot up your ass. Can't live in fear. How do we get there? That person right there, but a lot of other people I know who are saying, hey, we need to stay inside until I say, okay, let me ask you a question. How long do we stay? Well, for some people, it's until we find a vaccine. Okay. When's the vaccine come? What if it's not for a year? What if we never find one, which is becoming ever more likely as we talk about this, that we're not going to be finding a vaccine anytime in the near future, and maybe not at all, or one that is going to be what everybody hopes it is. So do we stay inside we can't do that. Okay. So what do we do? Well, just until what? We have 5 million ventilators. By the way, the ventilator thing, remember how big that was? That's becoming less and less of an issue. And a lot more doctors out there saying, ventilators really, we got other issues. The ventilators aren't a thing. That's the last gas sprawl while we try to throw everything's at it. But the reality is putting people on ventilators, a lot of doctors are like, so what do we do? I'm curious as to what we do because nobody can give me an answer. Nobody gives me an answer when I ask the question, and I've asked it to governors. I've reached out to several of my friends in the higher ups in the feds. Is when there's a second wave, what do we do? Because I'll tell you what, you've got people across the country, by and large, at this time, to listen, but they're less likely to listen on the second wave than they were this one. And the pushback will be huge, not just from businesses, which is coming, but also from individuals.
What precautions do you want those businesses to institute when they start? And part of this is on business. You know your business. I don't know your business. I don't know how you do business. How do you incorporate into how you do your business and where you do your business the precautions that we want to take going forward? How do you do social distancing? How do you do monitoring? Are you going to take the temperature of people who walk in the door, et cetera? And that's for government, but it's also a question for business.
It is absolutely a question for business. But the more they ask them to do, the more expensive it is. The more expensive it is, the less likely they're to do some of these things. And we're thinking about flipping the switch and that people are going to be coming back to work. It's not the reality. The reality is most employers are going to need about half the people they have now because they're going to have half the business. Or they're being told you can only open up so much of said business. So you're going to have to pick and choose who you bring back. Don't we have to face the facts at some point in time? We may have to approach this in a much different way. I still believe over the coming weeks and months, we are going to come up with a solid 1, 2, who knows, perhaps 3 different ways that therapeutically we can take this thing on and really mitigate the damage it does to people. But at the end of the day, what exactly are we going to do as we reopen? And there's a second wave. Are we heading back in again? If what we're being told is to be believed wholeheartedly without questioning that the second wave will come probably in the fall, late September through October, November, does that mean the time of the year when retailers and people really look forward to, people spending money, that we all have to head back inside of our house and we have to lock down again, and that 90% of America is going to be in lockdown, and that the economy is going to collapse again, and instead of having the U shape or the V shape collapse in the economy, we're going to have the V. That's unsustainable because as we have the big collapse, it'll go up a little bit, but it won't get back up to where it was. And then we're going to go back down again, and then it will go up, and it won't get back to where it was the second time, and then we're going to go down. We have to look at it in a different way. And it's horrible because when you talk about this, you talk about the thing that it's funny that we talk about, which we talk more about the lives being lost, which is understandable, but we never talk about the lives being saved long term. We never talk about that. It's always you're a bad person for even suggesting that people who are healthy go out there and work and potentially hurt other people. Nobody wants that. I've not talked to somebody who goes, man, I hope I become asymptomatic so I can infect a lot of people. Nobody says that. But the reality is don't we have to start looking at all options? Because the more I talk to business owners, and I talk to usually 3 or 4 a day who tell me, don't know how much longer I'm going to hang on. And every one of them have told me the exact same thing. I can do this once. I have a friend who has 2 restaurants out in Southern California. Says, I'm going to close one. I'm not going to reopen. The other one, I'm going to keep open. But if we have to do this again, I'm going to close that one too. I can't do it twice. And I won't do it twice. We have to look at all options. And it's funny because if you suggest anything other than run in the house and hide and wait till they tell you it's okay, remember, even the CDC and following their guidelines doesn't make this thing go away. It just delays a second wave until we reemerge. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program your love and, as you saw, your hate as well. And I'm totally fine with that. Hope your parents get it. Well, my dad has passed away, sir. And not from COVID-19, for those of you keeping score. Died of a heart attack brought on by drug abuse. So, there you go. But that shows, A, ignorance, what that person wrote, and B, fear. Absolutely. Another guy wrote me the other day. He's like, we should not have destroyed the economy. He goes, look, I'm in the high-risk group. And he talked about that he's a smoker, that he's morbidly obese, and that he accepts the risk, and that if, and he's older, but he doesn't want to see the world upended. And at this point in time, we chose the path we're going to go. It's the second path that we have to choose that I'm more curious about, that I don't ever seem to get an answer for. Raycon's best earbuds around. That path that we've chose is many people sheltering in place and working out of the house, and you're sitting there and you've got those old earbuds on and they've got stems or wires. They're horrible. You can hear your kids in the background. What are you doing? Now is the time to get yourself some Raycons. Half the price of all those other ones out there. Better style, better feel, 6 hours of talk time with the everyday E25s. These are the best ones Raycons have produced. Check this out. 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, great control. And what I love about the compact design is you hear everything. It's a noise isolating fit. So when you're taking phone calls, on conference calls, or maybe just sitting back and you want to relax and listen to one of your favorite podcasts, like the Chad Benson Show, guess what, kids? You can do it. Start well under $100. Celebrities like Snoop Dogg and Cardi B, love them. You will as well. Right now, save big. 15% off on top of all of that. Go to buyraycon.com/Chad. 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 Chad Benson Show.
Warning, no snowflake zone. Uninformed opinions are in danger of melting. The Chad Benson Show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? Let's take a look. Kids and kittens. Kawasaki's disease. No, it's not a motorcycle. Wouldn't that be weird, though? You have Kawasaki's disease. You're like, what is it? You have to drive around on a motorcycle in the dirt. Like, no way. Yep. Now, it is and toxic shock syndrome. There's another confusing. So wait a minute. Kids in certain areas are getting Kawasaki's disease. Some people are getting toxic shock syndrome. Other people have this or other. It seems that it affects the body in different ways for different people. And the reason is because we have different genetic makeups. Texas reopening is also trending. Big time. And the UFO, that's right, the Navy, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, declassified some video, and it's an unidentified flying object, to say the least. And to hear the guys who are in the planes talking about it, it is very interesting, but we're not alone. And they've been down here, and they're like, I don't, let's leave. That's probably what they said. Often wonder, it's like America, are we the universe's trailer park? Or the United, not just the United States, but the globe itself, Earth? Are we the trailer park of all the other planets? Like, oh, don't go to Earth. That place is, they look at us like we look at Florida. I'm kidding, Florida. I'm kidding, kids. I'm kidding. Head on over to Twitter. Yes, aliens exist. Hashtag. President Pine Sol. Trending. Cinco to go. Because obviously Cinco de Mayo is coming up. And people trying to figure out how do we enjoy Cinco de Mayo. And at the same time, socially distance. Hashtag aliens are real. Because aliens is why Hulu is down right now. And French football, Ligue 1, which is the biggest now sports league in the world to cancel their league events. And they canceled their season. Ligue 1 and Ligue 3 have canceled all of the rest of their season as the rest of the globe tries to deal with this, and the sports world is dealing with it all over. Some places, Poland is getting ready to open up their top flight soccer in the next 4 to 5 weeks. Some leagues, the German league, they have been training as of like early April. They started allowing players to get together in small groups, and that has expanded, but no word on that. And of course, the Premier League, which is arguably the biggest league regardless of sports in the world, is still trying to figure out how they finish their season. But Ligue 1, which has the mighty Paris Saint-Germain, which has all the money in the world, and they've bought every major player on earth, has decided they've canceled the season, and it will not return and cannot return, as France has been dealing with this like everywhere else. The German league looks like they're going to potentially open next month behind closed doors. And then we've got our stuff here, which is NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball is not even, they didn't even have a chance to start to cancel, and the NFL. We're going to talk about all of those because the NBA apparently is telling some teams some things. And the question is, could we be getting kind of closer? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show, your Twitter. You can tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Check out the Instagram and everything else that's available to you. It's Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Researchers at Yale will soon begin a clinical trial looking into ibudilast, an asthma drug. Scientists exploring its potential for treating acute respiratory distress syndrome, a potentially deadly lung condition popping up among some stricken with COVID-19. As the virus is proving more deadly for men than women, some experts in Long Island and Los Angeles are also beginning to look into 2 hormone treatments to fight the virus.
Try everything, right? You throw it all against the wall, see what sticks. It sounds weird, but they're trying. And this is different than what they're trying there are treatments. The vaccine is different. Vaccine takes years to develop, but we're speeding it up. We're at the point now where we're going to start doing trials on human beings well before we would ever think about doing trials on human beings, because we're desperate to get this thing sorted out and to get life back to normal. So we're going to inject people that are healthy with not only the actual disease itself or the virus, so they're going to get the virus, then we're going to give them an unproven, untried drug. The thing about hydrochloroquine and all of these other things, these things they've all gone through the process. They've got through the FDA. They've got through all of the stuff that they needed to get through. They're readily available in the marketplace. One of the things they're trying right now is some of the stuff that's inside things like Prilosec are seeming to help people. And again, everybody's going to be different. We may come up with 3 or 4 therapeutic ways to take care of people. Not everything is going to work for everybody because our DNAs are different.
I really worry when we hear these anecdotal reports of one patient was helped, one patient felt better. In medicine and science, we base our decisions based on hundreds and thousands of patients. So not ready for prime time yet.
No, but we can't test. Here's the thing with something like this, is we can't, if we have 100,000 patients, we can't test 100,000 patients because other patients are being given certain other things. And that's the problem, as Dr. Jen Ashton says, that's not ready for prime time. How do we know? Because we have people who say this is a woman who got the Pepcid treatment. That's the heartburn treatment.
All of the breathing issues went away and my fever was gone within, 24, 36 hours.
Yeah. So we just don't know. And that's what we're doing. That's why when you look at all of the things that we're trying, at the end of the day, herd immunity is the one thing where it's the one thing that pretty much guarantees that we can put an end to this. But how long does the immunity last? I could not tell you how long it's going to last. In some cases, it lasts a lifetime. In some cases, it lasts 6 months. In some cases, it lasts a few years. But one thing's for sure, when it does return, if we have herd immunity, the people that have caught it before are less likely to have the severe effects. And here's the thing about herd immunity. With the measles, you needed almost 95% to reach herd immunity. It's not because the thought process with herd immunity is you need everybody to catch it. That's not the way it is. And the theory behind it is eventually enough people have it that it has nowhere to go. It's in a room. And if people have antibodies, everybody here's got it. There's nowhere for me to jump to. Oh, and it runs out of steam. So with diphtheria, you need 86%. Pertussis, you need 94. Rubella, 83. Smallpox, 80 to 86. Polio, same. Then it starts with SARS. You needed 50 to 80%. With COVID-19, you need 29 to 60% of the people that have antibodies that potentially could slow this thing down. It's a big jump. It is. How about this? Ebola, you need 33 to 60%. Influenza, 33 to 44% of people. that slows it down. Where do we go? And that's the question I ask everybody. Is the second wave, what does that look like to business owners? What does that look like to individuals? What does that look like to government? Because the governments are as desperate as everybody else. They're not seeing their revenue. There is no tax dollars coming in. Without tax dollars, what happens? They've got to start doing something that you never hear in government. They're having to make cuts. They're having to lay people off. They're having to freeze hiring. What? Yeah. All of those things are going on. So where do we go? Because the second wave, again, if we're to be believed, is going to come. And how do we approach it? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. So, Ligue 1, the French soccer league, has canceled the rest of their season. The Belgian league canceled their season about 3 weeks ago and said, here's the way it's going to go, champions. And in Europe, European soccer, we don't have it here, but in any of our sports, but in European soccer, you have a relegation. So if you come in the final three of your league, so you're the third to last, second to last, and last place team, you actually drop down a division, and then the three below come up. I don't know how that works right now in any of these things. We don't have to worry about that, but what we do have to worry about is where do we go? Because some leagues seem pretty determined they want to do something. The NHL has a much different thing than the NBA does. As much as the NBA has become far more international, the NHL is far more international than the NBA. And I don't foresee any way, shape, or form that the NHL is coming back. And I think they're kind of resigned to it. They're holding out hope. But you also have to deal with two things that the NBA really doesn't have to deal with, except for one team, is a portion of your teams, a good portion of them, and your players come from different countries. So how do you get over the border thing when it comes to Canada? I just think that the NHL's done. The NBA, though, is trying to figure out how they can get this thing going, and some people are surprised because they're talking about letting their teams start to get together as early as Friday.
First of all, teams were surprised that the league was going to move this quickly to open up facilities starting Friday. None of them knew about this over the weekend. There was a small group of owners that this information was shared with. We got wind of it. We reported it before many teams were aware that this was going to happen this soon.
Yeah. So 10 teams had been on a conference call because they've got different committees, kind of like everything else that goes on in the world, right? You've got, go to, D.C., they all got their own committees. And 10 of these teams decided, hey, maybe we should think about opening up. Yeah, some places are going to start to open up. And that was the fear of letting some states have a certain amount of freedoms and other states maybe not. And they started worrying about players going, well, I want to go over there.
Part of it was there was some fear in the league that when the state of Georgia opens or the state of Florida opens, that players in other marketplaces who couldn't get into gyms would start migrating to those areas of the country and go to an Equinox, go to a public gym, and the league didn't want that.
Did you imagine that? The NBA teams out there, but I get it. So now you got to ask the question, what will happen? Because the NBA was the first to say, all right, we're shutting this thing down, at least temporarily. And then they had their first player that tested positive, and then they had a few more test positive, and everybody is looking around at what to do because sports is so, look at how big the draft was last week. It wasn't a sport. It wasn't even the draft that it was the year before. We had 700,000 people in Nashville. It was a viral, virtual, weird draft that took place, and the numbers were massive. We are clamoring for we're just, we got to have it, and we miss our sports. And the league is willing to say, all right, well, we're going to try to potentially do this, but we're willing to delay it. Then on the other side, with the NFL, what is that going to do? What are they going to do? the NBA, as big as it is, it's still the little brother to the NFL. And everybody's looking at the NFL saying, all right, you're it. Like, I think for a lot of people, even people who aren't into sports are like checking off the NFL starting the season as part of true normalcy returning.
If we go back till the middle of March, in that span of time, which is about 6 weeks, the NFL has passed a 10-year collective bargaining agreement.
Yep.
We've seen the movement of hundreds of players, trades, Tom Brady, DeAndre Hopkins. Then we saw the draft come up. We've seen so much happen at a time where nothing is going on in sports.
Right.
But the NFL has controlled it, and people want more, so they want to know, when are the games going to be played? When is the schedule coming out? What's going to happen? And again, we just don't know right now.
Don't know. And that drives everybody crazy. They're supposed to release the schedules next week.
They have to prepare for so many different scenarios because the truth of the matter is none of us know which way this is going to go. For one of the rare times, the NFL is not in control. Science is. And science is going to dictate when the NFL season opens, if there are fans, if there are no fans, if it's a shortened season, if the Super Bowl is pushed back. There are so many hypotheticals that as much as we all want answers coming off a weekend where the draft filled the sports appetite of starving fans, there are no answers right now. We have to wait.
It's Adam Schefter, and there are no answers. But the question remains, okay, let's just say it doesn't happen the way that we want it. Tell me there's something there still for the NFL season.
We have to sit back. We want NBA facilities to open at the end of the week. That's not practical. That's not realistic right now. We want there to be promises that there will be an NFL season. Not practical. So all the NFL can do right now is go about all these contingency plans in the event that things don't get better or they don't get better quick enough or whatever happens, the league is prepared for. But the league will come out with the schedule in the next week or two. It wants to have that down, but nobody knows what form that's going to be taking.
Nobody does. We've got NFL guys in the building. Fortunate enough, we got a big sports station here, Arizona Sports 98.7, and I talked to them, and I've cultivated some relationships as well. They've got all kinds of contingency plans, some starting in November, which would be interesting, some starting even into next year. College football's the same. College football, I think, is in more jeopardy because you can't have the players come back to play college football and not have the students back. So at some point in time, college football is going to have to make that real decision based on the student athlete, with student being the bigger part of this. Normally it's the athlete who happens to also be a student. And their contingency plan, from what I'm hearing, is they may start playing after the Super Bowl if they need to. So who knows? It's going to be weird, but I feel like it's part of getting us back to a normal world, and I miss sports. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us, Wounded Paw Project, amazing organization. I'm asking you guys right now to help, to donate, do what you can. Go to woundedpawproject.org. You can donate in several different ways, but what they do is they take that money and they protect, advocate, and transform shelter dogs into service dogs for veterans, first responders, and their family. And that's important right now. The first responders are under so much pressure. Yesterday, you saw one of the high-profile doctors in New York City who committed suicide because of the stress of what was going on in New York, and it is a tough situation. Our veterans and first responders are going through things that we can't even imagine, and Wounded Paw Project's there to help. Do what you can do. You can go to smile.amazon.com, set your supporting group to Wounded Paw. You can also, if maybe you got an extra car, truck, RV, you were going to junk it or trade it in, they'll take that. Get a great tax-deductible gift, and they also accept cash. You can call them at 844-678-4PAW, 844-678-4729, or go to woundedpawproject.org and check out all the amazing works they do. woundedpawproject.org. You'll be saving a paw to save a life. Chad Benson Show.
The
Chad Benson Show, where we reach across the aisle and occasionally poke someone in the eye.
Chris and Dick and I and Lauren have had a lot of conversations about it. And every couple of years we come up with an idea, but then it doesn't hold water. I mean, the problem is the bar that all of you raised on this genre. I don't think we've really successfully been able to find an idea that is better than the Goonies that we all made in the 80s. So until we do, people are just going to have to look at this 100 times.
Yeah, that's Spielberg hanging out with Josh Gad talking about why they never did a Goonies 2. They've thought about it. They pushed the idea around. He's talked about, hey, we've gotten together. We've more than kicked the idea around. We've come up with actual plot lines and started to develop something. But at the end of the day, nothing. So you might be stuck with the Goonies. But you never know. You never, ever, ever know. The world's a-changing, as we all know. Speaking of that in Hollywood, if you're a movie theater company and you're struggling right now because you can't open up, and when you do open up, it's going to be a much smaller business. Now popcorn's going to be $3,000 because you got to pay for everything. What kind of movies are even going to be available? But last month, Trolls. So the first Trolls did pretty good business. Enough that they decided we're going to make a Trolls 2. So has pretty big stars. Justin Timberlake, right? I mean, we're talking about real stars, big movie. Dwayne Johnson threw his voice in there. Kelly Clarkson, of course, Timberlake and everybody else. Anna Kendrick and Chance the Rapper and Sam Rockwell. I mean, this is a big, big, big gig. Uh-oh, coronavirus shows up. Ooh, what are we going to do? So they looked around and Universal says, you know what we're going to do? We're going to release it. We had a release date. We're going to release it. We're going to do it on video on demand. We'll charge $20 for the movie and we'll throw it out there and we'll see what happens. Lo and behold, huge money. Huge money. In fact, it's done more money in 3 weeks than the original revenue that was generated for Universal and the original Trolls during the 5-month theatrical release. That's big. Because for years, Hollywood has kind of had this weird battle. They've got this bizarre relationship. Back in the olden days, most of the movie theaters were owned by the movie companies. Since then, it's now AMC, Harkins, Regal. Everybody's got their own Ultrastar. They've got their own theater companies. And you've had this weird kind of relationship that has gone on and the battle about who gets what and how much goes. By doing this, have they said, maybe we don't need you? Now, I love going to the movies. I'll never stop. Even if you released everything, there will be movies I want to go to. I like the experience, the popcorn, the big stuff, the movie trailers, the hot dogs. I like that stuff. But there are a lot of movies I would watch in the first run at home, much easier than I would go see the movie or wait till it comes out on an HBO or something. Could be. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
2% per month is almost double the per capita rate that South Korea has achieved over the last 4 months accumulated. This is a massive amount of tests. And in many states, we're going to be doing 4%, 6%, 8% according to the state guidelines.
Yes, that's testing. Right? That's so we can the numbers. We can go, look, we got another one. That's what that is. That's testing. Got to make sure. I'm glad we're testing. We need to test more. I don't know what it tells us in some ways, but at the same time, I also know that it also tells you how much more widespread it is, which makes usually the mortality rate drop if we're looking at the antibody test. In places like New York, we're at the point now where they think 25% of New Yorkers have had exposure and or had this, and that brings that mortality rate down tremendously. Doesn't make it easier. Shows you how easy it is to spread. That's the difference between this and the flu. The flu spreads easy. This spreads a lot easier. So even if the mortality rate of the flu is 99.9% of people who catch it will survive, and this is 99.97%, you're looking at a lot of deaths based on this because of how much more it can spread, how much more widespread it is. In saying all of that, what do we do? Because states are looking to reopen sooner rather than later. And how do we do that? Earlier, I was watching Fauci talk about states reopening, and if we go too soon, there's going to be a rebound. And I've not heard the question, well, if we go later, is there also going to be a rebound? Right? I mean, isn't that kind of like we're going to have a second wave and a rebound? Are you telling me if we stay into, say, July 1st, there isn't going to be a rebound at all? Well, no, but well, what? I mean, that's what I want to know. Tell us, like, are you telling us if we stay in X amount of weeks and months more that there won't be a rebound? Because I'm here to tell you, if you're telling me it's seasonal and that it's not going anywhere, then there's going to be a rebound whether we go out tomorrow or we go out 6 weeks from now or we go out 6 months from now. And we're not going to hide until, I mean, how many of you out there, honestly, are like, I'm not going to go out until there's a vaccine? There's a few people out there that won't feel comfortable. They're probably going to have to at some point in time, but they don't feel comfortable. But that's the question I think it's the most important question. We're already in the midst of this. We've already done the social distancing. We've already shut down, our entire, economy minus a few certain sectors. And the ones who are working at home. And let's be real, when you work from home because you plan to work from home and you're set up to work from home and your business that you work in is able to take that function on easily because you can be either places and it's not a big deal. It's much easier to work at home than, hey, guess what? Next week you guys are going to all start working at home. That's a different thing. So even though our economy is functioning, it's not in certain areas, even though people may still be working, they're not working at the same level they would be had they had more time to prep and get things going. But my question to Dr. Fauci, to Birx, to everybody else, we're going to get a rebound. We know that. We're trying to flatten a curve so we can prepare and make sure that X amount of people that are going to get it are going to find beds and have access to everything they need, and it takes the pressure off of our healthcare system and all of that. But you say you worry about the rebound. Isn't there going to be a rebound whether it's tomorrow, Friday, 6 weeks, 6 months? Or if we hide long enough, does it eventually die off? I think it's a fair question. And I never get anybody say, well, it's... and I never get the other part that I ask is, at what point do we say, oh, this is not just a rebound, this is something else, and what do we do then? Who gets to call that shot? 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. You could text the program as well. A lot of people looking around because the economy now, as they've started to understand how this thing works, whether or not they're really in a position of real risk in getting this. The numbers bear out that if you're a healthy person between the ages of 18 and 45, the death rate is similar to that of the flu. In fact, it's almost identical. And even if you're not in those age ranges, but you're fairly healthy, you don't have any underlying true conditions, again, very minimal risk. But the risk to the economy, it cannot be understated. It is destroyed.
I think that some people have mischaracterized what I've said to make it seem like I'm saying that we're going to have a Great Depression, and that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that we've got the biggest shock since the Great Depression. It's a very grave shock. It is something we need to take seriously.
That is Kevin Hassett, who is a spokesperson at the White House and an economist. And he said that we are in a Great Depression and not a recession, and it was very doom and gloomy. Did they take some of his words out of context? Well, how can you not take some of these words and go, ooh, but here, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you at all. We're facing potentially 30% unemployment. We'll get the numbers this Thursday. There's no doubt in my mind we're going to be probably about 26 to is where we are. So I'm going to say roughly 31 million people since this started 6 weeks ago have lost their jobs. So you're putting us probably over the 20% mark or thereabouts when it comes to unemployment, even with an opening of the economy. Even if we did it full bore, I would say half the people would return to work. And probably 5% would return to some form of work, probably not the same amount of work they did before. And the 3% plus economy, as far as 3% unemployment, we may not see till 2022. That's the reality of it. And that's if we start to get back to where we were with a wide open economy without all of the other stuff that's here. Social distancing, all of that, and then that's going to take us a while. It is. Let's be 100% honest. That is not going to happen anytime soon based on the CDC, World Health Organization, your state, their health organizations, all of that stuff. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. And one of the other things that's going on is kids. Kids are struggling. Kids are struggling everywhere with a lot of different things. I know Jack is, and this is my son, I can speak for him. It's tough. So when he and my little brothers were out here, their schooling was totally different. They had like 30 minutes to an hour a day. Jack had a full, we're texting the teacher at like 10 o'clock at night. Didn't get this from Jack. I didn't get that. Stuff was put in the wrong place. And it is confusing and it is frustrating. And you look around and you're saying to yourself, some kids and parents have just given up, saying, look, I didn't sign up for this. This was supposed to be your job. And they're frustrated. And then you look and you say, well, what's their, what do you do? Do you pass them all on? Do you not pass them on? Do you make them just do this online thing through the summer? How does that even look? If we do reopen, do you just tell all the kids they got to go back to summer school and treat it as if it's normal school?
Since coronavirus disrupted the semester, it has been a challenge to figure out how to grade students on what they're learning remotely. In kindergarten through fifth grade, students here will either be given meet standards or needs improvement. For middle school, there's a third option, course in progress, to indicate teachers can't yet make an assessment.
Any child who needs that extra help, we have not just May and June, we have July and August as well. We're going to use them.
High school students will receive letter grades, but can switch to pass-fail, so grade point average is unaffected.
And colleges are going to be having real issues because a lot of kids are like, well, why would I want to go and spend $50,000 or $100,000 to get into college at a time when the marketplace has collapsed? I'm not even sure if we're going to have college. So colleges now are doing what airlines do, which is they're overbooking So their admittance levels are through the roof because they figure, well, you know what? If they all show up, great, but we're expecting a certain amount of fallout, and that's going to be multiplied because of this. And I think colleges are in for a real awakening over the next several months. I mean, big-time issues that are going to be coming to them about why should we be paying this much if I can do online learning like I have been for the last X amount of months? Why should we be doing all of these things? And you're expecting us to show up here. This is going to be a shift, I think, in the way that kids are going to be learning, and also the way that kids are going to be saying to themselves, do I need to be taking out this much money to go to school? The jig may be up with them. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. AMAC Association Mature American Citizens doing something for you right now. They're offering a free 1-year membership. Free 1-year membership. With that, they're out there lobbying on your behalf, fighting for solid immigration reforms based on common sense, making sure that the things that are out there like Social Security, which you've paid into, Medicare, are there and they're solvent. On top of that, they're going to give you retail, restaurant, hotel discounts. So when we reopen, which we will, you'll be able to take advantage of all of these things. And they'll answer questions for you on Medicare and Social Security. You just have to give them a call. The membership is free. It's the fastest growing over 50 organization in the country. All you have to do is sign up. That's it. No cash, no credit card, nothing required. Just go to amac.us/Chad to sign up. That's amac.us/Chad, amac.us/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
I can't take it anymore!
Well, get over it. It's time to forge a new path with your very own political cartographer, Chad.
I never even thought of changing the date of the election. Why would I do that? November 3rd. It's a good number. No, I look forward to that election.
Trump, the thing, is he going to change it? Is he going to change the date? Could he change it? Would he change it? Might he change it? He's not going to change anything. Not right now. It's weird the way that things are going. Obviously. Like Ohio, it's primary day today. Canceled the one in New York. I mean, it's just, the whole thing's odd. We've never been in a situation like this, and I'm totally fine voting by mail. But vote harvesting, settle down. But I get it. It's funny because do a lot of things by mail. Depends on who's in power, who's not in power, who it may affect and who it may not affect on how we go about doing things. And then with all that being said, you've got the important position of being the potential vice president candidate. Pence is there, at least for now. God only knows. I had a feeling, had this not come up, I had a feeling there was a chance he may have been replaced. And who knows, with Trump, you never know. Anything is possible. At the same time, Biden's got to figure something out.
While he's been at home in Delaware, he's actually been interviewing some of his potential picks in his new podcast. He recently heaped praise on Senator Amy Klobuchar, and he's been reaching out to Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer as she tackles this crisis. And then there is former Georgia governor candidate Stacey Abrams, who is taking a very different approach. She is actually actively campaigning for the VP job. Biden has said that he will have his official search committee in place by Friday, and he has hinted that he could announce his pick in June.
And that will be interesting to find out who his pick is going to be. I had originally said Stacey Abrams was probably going to be the one, and that was before all of this. And then Gretchen Whitmer has exploded, and she is the governor of Michigan. Her profile has been raised tremendously. Michigan's a state he needs. That's very interesting for Biden. And what about, Michelle Obama? Because the rumors have been, yeah, and then it's no. There's a new doc out on Netflix, and some people are saying it's pointing towards, it's a possibility.
It's called Becoming.
I crave some longer experiences with young people.
The doc described as an intimate look into the life of Michelle Obama during a moment of profound change as she transitioned from the White House into former First Lady. Cameras followed her on a recent 34-city book tour as she met with people and told her story.
So how does it feel like trying to get back on track of your normal life that you had before?
What I've learned is that get back on what track? It's a whole new track.
The doc is from her and her husband's Higher Ground production company. It'll premiere on Netflix May 6th.
And inside of it, there is more than a few hints at politics. That'd be tough if he, being Biden, somehow manages, and it's a long shot, to get her to be his vice presidential candidate. That would be tough. That would be extremely tough for Trump to run against, especially in an economy that is flagging, albeit it's not his fault. The economy was booming under his watch when things were normal. These are not normal times. More and more that this continues to play out. Sometimes, it's just the cards aren't in your favor. Can you bluff your way out of it? Is it a possibility that could happen? Yeah. I still don't think so. I think she has her own mind and the way that she wants to do something. And I think she thinks, I don't need him. But it would probably have to come with a promise that from everybody that if he was to win, Biden, he steps out of the way after 4 years and there really is no other nomination process other than her. Then I think she'd think about it. But you never know. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Science. I love it. But whose science are we to believe? Because every time I hear something, one contradicts another, that contradicts another. I don't know. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The simulator developed at Massachusetts General Hospital suggested coronavirus deaths in the state would stay below 5,000 if restrictions are followed through August. If they're lifted, the simulator said deaths could be nearly 10 times that. The strategy in Georgia, which has already opened some businesses, could be risking 23,000 deaths. Nationwide, the simulator predicts 1 million deaths from coronavirus if restrictions were lifted in every state next month. Leave them in place until June, and the model predicts 86,000 deaths.
See? What model's that? Everybody's got a model. Everybody's got a hypothetical model. There's a great article last week that came out in The Hill by Scott Atlas. He's former chief neuroradiology at Stanford. He teaches it there. Interesting article, and he talks about the fact that we're living our world based on hypothetical models that have been wrong time after time after time, instead of going on in, facts that we have, empirical facts that we've had for a long time. He talked about New York, right? Case in point, he said, look, third of the deaths in New York, in the U.S. took place in New York. But that shouldn't panic the rest of us. He said more than 99% of those who have died had underlying conditions, and the rate of the death of people between the ages of 18 and 45, healthy Americans 18 to 45, is 0.01%, which is also the same as the flu. We have facts. He says facts matter. But it got me thinking today about the fact that we live in a world where whose facts matter? Whichever fact that you want your point of view, you'll find that. Last week, Trump talked about disinfectant UV lights. People on the right ran around trying to find, well, there's got to be some sort of, they're doing studies here at Cedars-Sinai with UV lights and putting it there. Everybody's trying to find the thing that fits whatever works for their idea. Science is no different. Why they talk about, is it peer reviewed? Is because when you peer review something, you're sending it out there to your peers. When really what it should be, is it rival reviewed? Because rivals are going to tear it apart. Science is about going out and, in many cases, debunking what the other person's come up with. When I was a kid growing up, don't eat eggs. Eggs are bad, cholesterol. Then you get older, like, well, hold on, eggs are good. Well, who's right? New study out today. How many times you heard that? I was reading a study this morning. AM time. I was talking to producer Anthony about it. How many times have we heard, if you don't get enough sleep, that is the cause of obesity? New study out today says, no. The reason you don't sleep is because you're obese. Oh. Well, what is it? That's the problem with this COVID-19 is every day we turn around, we have a new theory, we have a new symptom, we have a new thing that science tells us to do. So 2 weeks ago was everybody needs to wear a mask, even though the masks don't really work. Well, they do work, but they don't work. Why do they work? I don't know why they work. Maybe they do work. Maybe they don't work. Maybe they can. Maybe they won't. I don't know. You should use gloves, but only if you are able to take the gloves and off every time. It is all confusing. What we do need to do is say to ourselves, we don't know enough about it. So let's look at the evidence. Listen to what some of the scientists have to say. And some of them who are living in a world of politics and they're throwing some wacky stuff out there. And, let's listen to what science has to say, but also look at the evidence. Here's what science on all sides says. Herd immunity is the best thing for this, especially if we're not going to get a virus. That's what Scott Atlas talks about. All we're doing is hiding from the virus, giving our healthcare workers enough time to be prepared when another wave comes, but we're not getting rid of it. It's not disappearing. It's still out there. We're not going to stay in our houses forever. It's no way we could live. Eventually, they're going to come take your house. But it is funny the way that science does what science does. It's all about debunking a lot of the other things that are out there. And I'm always curious about, because you can go and find, and you've always got to look at who pays you. That's the other thing, right? Who pays you? Science. I've got a buddy who works, we grew up together. He's a good dude. Wanted to be an astronaut. Really smart cat. But he does scientific stuff. And he used to always tell me, find out who pays the scientists and you'll find out what science they're going to roll out for whatever it is that they're doing. And he always jokes about Coca-Cola got scientists to say there are some benefits to Coca-Cola. Why? Because they needed that. And if you're a person who is being funded, the reason you're being funded isn't to destroy who's ever funding you. It's to help them. And all too often, just like when you watch campaign ads all over the place, what do they tell you? I always don't look at what the campaign ad says. Look who's paying for the campaign ad. Because that'll tell you more about that in the 5 seconds than that entire 30 seconds or minute will tell you. And it's the same thing with science. Here's what we know. We don't know enough about it. One thing we do know is herd immunity, at least empirically, has been able to help people overcome stuff. And if we don't have a vaccine and we're hoping to get back to our lives, at some point in time, we've got to face the fact that we may have to get out there and take calculated risks, especially the younger, healthier folk under probably 65 with no underlying conditions. And I think if you ask the average person in America who's healthy and it doesn't have any true underlying, they're 20 pounds overweight is not an underlying condition. 200 pounds overweight with diabetes is. But if you ask that average person, are you willing to get out there and just live your life? I think if you presented all of the science, they'll probably say, yeah, I'm good with those odds. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Love hearing from every single one of you. All that being said, just remember you guys have animals, and animals need to be taken care of just like human beings in this time. And that includes making sure we're distancing ourselves just in case.
The CDC says pet owners should take precautions by simply treating pets as they would other human family members. Though there have only been a handful of known cases of animals becoming infected with COVID-19, the advisory suggests that people apply social distancing measures to their pet as well. That means keeping cats indoors and walking dogs on a leash at least 6 feet away from other animals and people. The CDC says at home, interact the way you normally would, but if someone does get sick in your household, keep the pets away as well.
So keep your pets away. Would I keep my pets away? My pets are weird. I have dogs. Of course, those of you who remember, Three-Adore, my cat, passed away late last year, who's only a year and a half old. Went through a lot in his little year and a half life. Best cat in the world. Lost his leg. But I've got little dogs. And I have giant lizards. Weird. I live in a weird world. I have big lizards. I'm not really worried about whether or not my lizards will catch coronavirus. I had somebody who tweeted at me, "Are you worried about your lizards catching coronavirus?" I'm like, I'm not. I said, in the world now, they're different because they're not wild caught. They're all captive bred and born, which means that not only are they born in captivity, their parents are born in captivity. So they've only ever known living in the world that they live in, and they've got it. My house, they've got it pretty darn good. But I said the reality is they have salmonella. Many cases, some of them have venom, and they eat carcasses. So I'm not worried about them catching that. But the dog thing is weird. So far, the cats. I mean, the big cats are catching it. And I don't know what it does for big cats. I mean, they haven't really, are they dying from it? Are they not? Because, they have, there's HIV and AIDS. And there's also feline AIDS. Is it the same thing? Or do they die from it? And could you do that? Like, how do you social distance from your dog? Especially in a time when we're social distancing and we need something. We need that. Like, they were worried originally when this thing hit that there was going to be a flood of animals across the country that were being turned in because people were losing their jobs and they couldn't afford to keep their pets. And quite the opposite's happened because people are looking for a companion. They've adopted a lot of animals. Could you imagine adopting an animal and say, well, you can't hang around it? Oh, man. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. We're getting back out there. It is starting to happen. Slowly but surely, they're starting to get themselves back out there. And by that, I mean the country. Certain parts, Texas opening up Friday. 25% of people, or 25% capacity. So if you have a restaurant, normally you seat 100 people, you can have 25 people in there. Tables. I don't know what this is my thing, and maybe I'm weird here. The gloves and the mask at a restaurant feel a bit off-putting. Like I'd rather just order food and take it home than have somebody serve me in a hazmat suit. I'm okay with the throwaway. They're talking about, okay, we're going to have certain places will have menus that you can just, you throw them away on paper. I guess, that's fine. But Am I wrong about the gloves and the mask? Don't they feel a little off-putting when you're going to get food? Because I feel like, even though my mind says, I've eaten here 1,000 times, all of those things, it just feels like now I feel like my food's contaminated more than it was. Even though I didn't think it was, but now I feel like, in my mind, I feel like it's contaminated. 323-538-2423, at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. They're also going to allow people into theaters, so if the capacity is, say 400, only 100 people will be allowed in, 25. And I don't even know what movies they're going to show. Some movies are going to be rolled out in June and July. I don't know outside of that. I don't know if we start to really open back up again, if movie companies are thinking about throwing movies out, even though they've moved them, maybe moving them again, thinking, we'll take advantage of being the only movie in a theater. That's a possibility, but it's weird. And then they talked about concerts in the future, people wearing these bizarre suits where you look like you're Daft Punk. I'm like, that's just not going to fly. It's not. I mean, this whole thought of this is the way we're going to live now and everybody's going to be hermetically sealed is just insane. It is not how it's going to be. It isn't. 323-538-2423, at Chad Benson Show, Twitter. Tweet at us. MyPillow right now is doing something amazing. Mike Lindell has moved his production line from making MyPillow products to making PPEs for hospitals and health workers across the country. So they've decided we're going to move everything out. We're going to do a big sale. Buy one, get one free on everything. The Supreme MyPillows, the neck and bolster pillows, the roll and go anywhere pillows, the Giza towels and sheets, the Dream Sheets, all of that stuff is going buy one, get one free. With it, you get a 60-day money-back guarantee, a 10-year warranty, and everything's made in the USA. So when you go to MyPillow.com, use the special radio listener page, you type in code Benson. When you do, you get the buy one, get one free. But on top of that, on the way out, if you buy his book, and if you don't know anything about Mike Lindell, know this. Drug addict, real mess, going nowhere, probably should have died, changed his life, and became a uber successful individual. It's a really interesting read, regardless of your politics, your religious belief. It is a really rags to riches story. When you do that, you get a $25 gift card towards your next purchase, and he's going to ship everything for free. MyPillow.com, use promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
No need to fear. We promise we won't give you a noogie and make you cry Russia, Russia, Russia.
Who is the fearless leader?
Pooey.
Pooey, pooey, and double pooey.
Boy, it's your language. This is a family show, remember?
Pooey to families too.
Nostrovia. This is Chad Benson.
Lather Studio in Corona, east of L.A., is reopening its doors. It's been shut down for 6 weeks, and its owner, Kira Baranian, says a hair salon can't be closed any longer.
All of us depend on working for our livelihoods, and unfortunately we haven't been able to.
So she's now defying state and Riverside County stay-at-home orders. She says she doesn't qualify for SBA loans, so she will defy the rules, knowing it could mean stiff fines or even arrest.
Is that insane? And the first thing that people are going to do, according to many, is get you herded when you have a chance. It's going to be one of the first things people do when all of this has been lifted. But a lot of people are going to be running around getting their hair did because they're looking around and their hair's a mess, and it's part of that comfort thing that we're missing out on. Something that we took advantage of, something that in many cases maybe we took for granted, but something that is a necessity to many is the little things that we miss. It's that comfort food. We'll see. We'll see. I want to see how she does. I get it. You're telling human beings you have to stay at home and you can't work. Yet there's a lot of people trapped in this world of, I don't get any money, my business is shut, I don't qualify for anything, so now what do I do? Well, according to them, for the betterment of all, you starve and become homeless. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Love hearing from you. So the Patriots this past week took a kicker, I think in the 6th round, and he has a tattoo, and he's going to get it removed. It's a controversial tattoo. Rower Wasson has a 3% tattoo, which, according to the Southern Poverty Law Group, represents a group that is racist. He said, it was described to me when I was younger as a percentage of colonists that rose up against the authoritarian government of British, and now it's been hijacked for something else, so he's promised to get it taken care of, and I'm sure that's something that will haunt him. Can't kick! You got to cancel. You got to be canceled. You know what you thought it meant, but in this world, no. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. We'll get you over the hump tomorrow. We got you through today. Go have yourself a taco. Night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.